everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Kimberly, and in case this is the first time you've stopped by to watch one of these videos, we're in the middle of an event, a series of videos that I'm creating about the awakening, ascension, and the event. And I've covered already the basic scientific information that is really the foundation for understanding what is happening with the ascension process right now and why it's happening. And one of my best resources and favorite resources for all of the information I've learned is David Wilcock. I have several of his books that I've read. I've watched all of his videos on Gaia.com. I highly recommend that. I'm only just doing a really brief overview of that information. And then the rest of the things I'll be talking about, is kind of like, okay, where do we go from here with all of that information? Because I know that for myself, I've really started delving into the science behind it, the event, and after I'd really gone pretty heavily into my own awakening experience, and I'd always heard things and people talking about ascension, but it just seemed like a lot of people were kind of a little airy-fairy about it, just that it's kind of some magical thing. Even from my background in Christianity, that's how it's really thought of, that it's just kind of like all of a sudden Jesus comes in the sky and everybody's changed and it's just magic. But there is actually a very, very scientific foundation for it. It's just the only problem is that our current scientific model doesn't have an explanation for it, doesn't even look at it, and has not even tried to assimilate and assess the information that actually very much heavily endorses the fact that our solar system is entering an energetic zone that is highly charged. It's about 6,000 degrees Celsius, or actually much higher than that, and it's a magnetic energetic zone that we actually enter into, and it's part of a cycle that happens over a 25,000 year process again and again. And every time the Earth comes into, there's probably other zones as well for somewhat energizing, but the peak ones are truly, literally programmed and created by the divine creator, and then more locally by our own sun, who actually, it is a conscious entity who has created the solar system and supports all the life in the solar system that we live in. And that process is literally to push us from one dimension to another. And I want to really talk now a lot more about the importance of the third dimension in the shift and the event, and why it is we're going from third dimension to fourth dimension, and what consciousness has to do with the event. So one of the things that I had run into quite a bit, and you guys probably have also heard this as well, that in regards to energetic bodies and things like that, there's our physical body, and I think people talk about there being 3 different bodies or 5 different ones. I don't remember them all. They're great. I've read about it. I've known about it at some point, but I can't pop it off the top of my head here. So look into that. But basically the concept behind it is that we have there's another aspect to us that we don't see, that's at another, kind of in another dimension in and of itself, but which literally programs and creates, it's like the energy, it's the information that keeps on creating our own physical body. A lot of people talk about how, oh, this is just an illusion, this third dimension reality isn't really even real, and things like that. And that kind of bothers me. I'll just say it right now, and maybe a lot of you do like to think of it and view it that way. The reason it bothers me is that this is real. We are truly experiencing this in a physical, very real physical sense. The aspect of illusion is that we don't understand what it's really all about. That's what the illusion is. The illusion is that we think this is all there is. The illusion is because of the veil. And I do talk about, in the last episode, I talked about why the veil exists and why it was put into place. The veil is there to give people in the third dimension, souls, which the law of one calls it the mind, body, spirit complex that we are. It gives us the opportunity to have a choice, to choose whether we want to have a service to others pathway, which is the positive polarity, the right-hand path, or if we want to have the left-hand path, which is a negative polarity, which is about service to self. The service to self path ends up, because some people and some souls choose to use that path to eventually go back to the creator, it actually creates incredible contrast. It's the darkness within the light that gives, it's the yin within the yang, or the opposing the yang, that gives us such a more complex, vivid, vibrant, viewpoint on everything. Even though the negative polarity only exists in the third and fourth and fifth dimensions, and then above that there is no such thing as negative polarity, just the fact that it exists at all has created an incredibly infinite number of greater choices, experiences, and richer, everything is richer and more vibrant because of it. So when people talk about this dimension being an illusion, yes, there are certain aspects and things about it that are of an illusory nature. But, that illusion doesn't mean that, we don't truly have this physical existence, that we don't have a 3D body and experience. So this other part of us that we don't see, that has basically our template for our bodies and for who we are, it actually manifests in the physical because of consciousness. Now, I don't understand this, so I'm going to be telling you things in a sense that I know and I believe, but I don't really totally get it, how it works. But it really, really is relevant to the event. And I'll be telling you why as it'll really unfold as we move along. So this is one of the things that, I'm just trying to think about how to go into this. Backing up a little bit to, kind of like the physical aspect of this event. In the Law of One, and then also you can, see this from David Wilcock's work and the things that he talks about. From the 36 world religions that talk about this, solar energy from the sun that changes everything, changes consciousness, changes us into the, brings us into the golden age. That, they speak of it from the physical aspect of the light energy doing this change. But this is one place where I didn't fully comprehend until just recently, actually just yesterday, when I channeled another message from my higher self. And I just have to say really quickly that the foundation for understanding the event is the scientific part that I already talked about. That's really critical. It was critical for me because it really gave me it's very tangible. There's so much that really shows this is happening without a doubt. But then it helped me to understand the intangible things. And some of the intangible part for me has kind of been this, okay, so there's either a big flash from the sun and everything suddenly changes. You hear some people who actually say, one moment we're 3D bodies and we have this level of consciousness, and then instantly we suddenly have 4D, or some people think we go straight to 5D, which isn't correct. I'll be talking more about that later. That we'll suddenly have a 5D body and a 5D consciousness, and we'll hardly even remember our 3D existence. And that was fine with me. I would like that. It would be kind of nice to just suddenly wake up and then, the world is immediately golden. We're in the golden age. But that is not actually what if you really dig into, first of all, the Law of One, it does indicate this, although not directly. That's why I didn't really realize it right away. And then as I was channeling information from my higher self about it, they just kept saying something that just kind of bugged me at first. And it was also said in the Law of One. So first of all, talk about Law of One. In the Law of One, when the questioner was first asking the raw people, the entity that they were channeling, they wanted to know about the event. And they asked about it, and the response from the raw people, they say I am Ra, and they're the same Ra that initially brought information in through to the Egyptians, and they're very positive entities, and that was before the negative beings co-opted the Egyptian religion and turned it into negative that it is today, which has it was the roots for the Illuminati, so it's different. Just making that clear. So these beings were saying the event is of no consequence to us. And they kind of just wanted to brush it by. They were saying to us it matters not. It matters not. It's not even an issue worth focusing on. And the questioners and also David Wilcock and myself, as we're reading this, we're like, what? The event is the most important thing. It's so important. We need to know about the event. So that was an interesting. Okay, so why was it important? Well, later on they asked questions about the event again, and thankfully Ra does go in and answer all their questions, which is one thing I have definitely noticed that Ra did, and also my higher self does too. No matter what question we ask, they will answer the question. You may not always like the answers you get, but be patient with it over time, because in the end, of course, it all does make sense and it's good stuff. So they do go into the details and they do talk about it more, and they describe, what this event will be like, with this shift, and they really do, focus a lot on it being a shift in consciousness. So when I was first began questioning my higher self, either by myself or in joint sessions with Lisa, and I just have to say about that, I do like having sessions with her where I'm asking the questions and she receives the information, because she has not studied into this at all. She has not studied into the event, and I have. So sometimes I'm just not sure if my own preconceived bias and ideas from what I've read are affecting my messages or not. So that's why I do like it when I'm asking the questions and then she's receiving from either my higher self or hers. But on the other hand, when I have channeled directly myself, I also get affirmed that they say, you can trust yourself, that as you've studied, as you have read from here and from there, you have created a quite, true, accurate picture of what will happen. I mean, there are some distortions, because we will all have our own distortions on how we view things, but they say it's highly accurate and correct, and to trust myself in that. And then they're giving me more answers. So anyway, we were asking questions, and they kept kind of saying the same thing about the event. Like, you keep talking about the event, but to us, and they kind of brush it under the, kind of brush it away. It's just saying it's not. Another word I use for the event is the shift, and they'll be like, we don't see it as a big shift. And so I was kind of at first when I was hearing some of this stuff, I hadn't put it all together yet. I was a little frustrated, because I was like, I want there to be a big change, I want it to be overnight. I want it, change overnight. And so now I'm going to go into, what they ended up telling me and what I understand to be the case, and what it has to do with consciousness. So first of all, they're basically letting us know that it takes longer than we think. So let me go there first. Scientifically, and from what they explained to me, and from what I've heard some David Wilcox talk about and show, plus Corey Good, and it was interesting because Corey Good ended up saying the same thing I had never heard him say before, that had just been coming into me. So I got confirmation from him, and he basically, he's working with people, ETs and higher dimensional people that all know all about the event, and they don't, they're not trying to hide it from him like they're hiding, like the cabal is hiding it from the rest of us on Earth. So, he's getting kind of direct, knowledgeable sources of information, and he was saying the same thing. It's more about a consciousness shift, and it's more of a series of emanations and light and flashes from the sun that will occur, and it actually has been occurring already. And that really blew me away, because that's exactly what my higher self had been telling me, and which was kind of changing my perspective, because up until then I'd been listening to David Wilcock, and he really, all of the 36 different, teachings and whatever, they talk about it being sudden, they talk about it being an energy from the sun, and so we kind of have this idea of sudden being like, boom, there it is, it's a great big giant flash from the sun, and then everybody's changed, and we all wake up differently. And what we were being told by my higher self is that if that were to happen, everybody would be destroyed. If the energy hit so hard and so fast and so suddenly in one giant big flash, and if that energy, even if we survived that kind of an energy flash, if that were to happen, that even if the physical change came on suddenly, the physical change, we wouldn't survive either. It just doesn't work that way. So the way they describe it happening, first of all, is primarily a consciousness shift. And I started thinking about it later in relationship to this energetic body that we have that basically dictates and creates this, our consciousness, our 3D consciousness taps into it, and then this physical body is manifested and projected from our consciousness, our 3D consciousness. So it's a perfect blueprint. It doesn't have wrinkles, it doesn't have cancer, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't get skin problems, it doesn't have hair falling out, it doesn't have it doesn't die. It goes on and on forever. It's perfect. So the only reason that the physical manifestation that we have, the way it is, and I've read this before from other people too, and it clicked in, is because our consciousness translates it that way. And why does our consciousness translate this imperfect body? Why does our consciousness age? Why does this body end up aging? Why do we have, and of course we see it all on a physical level. I'm not trying to say, yes, you can go in there and you can see cancer cells and you can see the depredation of cellular, reproduction over time isn't as perfect, and so you don't have the nice plump cells, so then you start having bagging and sagging, and all of that's for real. That's really truly what happens. But why? Well, in the 3D reality, first of all, as you know, if you go far enough back in history, lifespans were hundreds of years and then even thousands of years. And even lifespans as old as we're aware of, which is like Methuselah, who lived to be about 900 and some years old, even that lifespan was incredibly short, even for 3D reality. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of that right now because that's quite a long story, but look it up, do some research on it, and you'll find out that, there was a lot of different things that changed in our history with, the different beings that were coming in, and, the negative beings and what kind of effect they had, and, they were doing genetic engineering, they were inbreeding with us, but then they truly have created an entire world global slave society, and we don't realize it. One thing is, you guys, we don't understand is that all of us truly are and have been treated like slaves by these people, and one of the things they did was to shorten our lifespan significantly genetically by modifications they did, but our own consciousness contributed to that as well in a very, very big way, because as they kept oppressing us, and we kept allowing them to do it, because of course we're always creating our own reality, it's our fault just as much as theirs. Like, we can't be the victim here, we can't pretend like it's all their fault and it's them. We kept buying into the lies they kept telling us, even though there was truth out there to be had. We kept buying into allowing ourselves to be controlled, manipulated, deceived, just like we are today, by listening to the mainstream media, and by being told everything that we are, told to think and believe, and then allowing them to, poison our food supply, give us drugs, poisonous drugs instead of medicine, or instead of actually, true healing technology. I could go on. So we're allowing all that, and so we are also creating this shortening of our lifespan. And so in the Law of One, they talk about how this shorter lifespan truly has, presented a pretty significant challenge to the process of awakening, because, even in the best of times, a 3D reality has a soul that lives in a body for several, many hundreds of years, and probably even up to, 5,000 or 10,000 years. That's normal in most realms. The lifespan is that long. And you can just imagine how much growth and opportunity and, you can build on it when you have this conscious, understanding and remembrance of, 10,000 years of time. And of course now we do have past lives where we've lived those things, but the veil prevents most of us from knowing the things we learned in past lives. So we're kind of always starting over again in a sense. Although I do believe that there's no such thing truly as a mistake or a problem that can't be solved in some way. So I do believe we've adjusted quite well to having really short lifetimes and still gaining and having the growth that needed to happen in order to, finally get to the point where we're going to go through this event and have the consciousness change that's coming in. So, oh dear, where was I going with all of this? So the buy-in that our conscious mind has toward it reaches up to have connection to our real template of our actual true body, and then how we interpret it in this reality there's a big discrepancy. There's something missing there. And so that's why we have this body that has, all of the problems that it does. Now, those problems, though, also have the positive side, because as you know, there's really no such thing as true negativity. We have the negative path, or we have the negative problems or whatever, but within them there's always the flip side. There's the yang and the yin. There's the there's the sunrise after the dark night. And so having a body that has sickness and death and doesn't live very long and gets wrinkles and gray hair to remind us, hurry up, time is running out, you need to hurry up and, get your life together, that midlife crisis that people often have, those kinds of things do have their, they're called catalysts. So the Law of One refers to them as catalysts because they do bump us into growth. They push us to, I'm sure all of us have had these experiences, whether it's sickness, whether it's the death of a loved one, whatever it is, we end up growing from those situations, or we certainly have the opportunity to grow, even if we choose not to. So as this consciousness shifts, think about this. As the light is coming in, and you guys have all experienced it, you're watching this channel right now because you've experienced the light coming in, and you had an awakening, and you've begun the ascension process as we head toward the culmination of the event. And that awakening has changed your thoughts, and it's changed your understandings, and it's changed how you view the world, and it's changed how you feel inside because it's changed how you view everything. I go around now with this incredible, I can feel it from head to toe. It's almost like a full body orgasm. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like, but what I mean is like it feels so good. It's just like, and I will sometimes just consciously in meditation or just waking up in the morning and laying in bed before I get up and just feel it and intend to feel this light energy, anchoring it, letting it flow through my body, anchoring it into earth, and it just feels so good. It is mind-blowing. Just laying there, just meditating, whatever. And then I think it's already had physical effects. Some of the physical effects so far have been a little frustrating as odd things are happening. I mentioned before, a random, skin problem that I'd never had before, or, I've been really, really healthy. Like I've hardly ever gotten sick, and I used to get sick all the time. That's been a great benefit of raising my vibration. So this consciousness we've already felt it. We've already started to see the changes. Now, as we're headed toward the event, really culminating, we're getting more and more of this light coming in. And, initially it's just the first wave of people waking up were the Starseeds, who are old souls who've done this before, and we were capable of waking up in this very constrained and difficult environment. We were capable of waking up with less light than, what's happening now. But what's happening now is this energy that's coming in as it's energizing the sun, and then the sun is energizing our earth and energizing us. It's waking up everybody. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it's like truth serum. Truth in your own life. It woke us up, and we started seeing things for how they really are, and one thing after another fell away, and there was no more, there was no more doubt eventually. There was no more confusion. There was, we were going on a whole new path we would have never dreamed of. If you told me 10 years ago I would be sitting here on YouTube making videos about something called The Event and, all of this, I would never have believed you. It's profound, the way it's changed us, and that is coming for every single person on earth at this time. You may not believe it now, but it is. And they're in the beginning stages. The rest of the world is in the very beginning stages of this incredible effects of the truth serum of the light that's coming in toward this event, this consciousness. Now, really quickly, I do think I'm going to jump into how this consciousness and basically how it plays out over time. And then in my next, I might wrap this up in one more video, I'll be talking about some of what we're seeing manifest already in our world, kind of through politics and other things that are really proving to us that truly we're entering this time. So one of the things that I kind of had this, what I realize now is a misconception, is that there would be just one major flash from the sun, and then there could be a lot of catastrophic. By the way, that okay. Just trying to think what else I should say right now. So first of all, there is something in the way, depending on the way we hit certain angles of this space domain where this energy comes in. At some times in our past, we hit it head on. And if you hit it head on, then the potential for a major pole shift and cataclysmic events that basically wipe out life as we know it on Earth totally are there. And that has happened in the past. And when that did happen in the past, whenever there were groups of people or beings on Earth that needed to be, saved and prevented from experiencing the cataclysm, they were rescued and saved. So one thing I just want to let you know, anybody who's alive on Earth now, if things are cataclysmic and they end up, crazy shit, you know what I mean? I almost said it. Hitting the fan, it's going to be okay. There might be some people who die in those things, in those events, but they were meant to. They chose to do it by their soul, not necessarily meaning they were negative path people or middle path people. I need to talk about that. I gotta write my note. Negative, middle, and then the positive. I gotta talk about how each of those pan out. Okay, but the main thing is not to worry about it, because it truly, if anybody needs to be taken to places where they'll be safe, that will happen. Now, on another point though about that is I was told by my higher self, and this actually was completely confirmed also with information that David Wilcock is showing scientifically and Corey Good is getting as well, is that this time we're coming into more of an angle. So this energy, this domain, the edge of it, it's, again, sacred geometry. Instead of us hitting straight on, we're coming in at an angle. And that angle truly, it's like the angle right now of the sun, because it's winter and we're almost to the solstice, and so twilight here is really long. Like the sun comes up, like it starts getting light in the morning, like an hour before the sun finally shows, and the same thing in the evening. So I might head out on my hike when it's just about to be sunset, but it's barely dark by the time I get home. So that's what it's like. We're still going to get the full impact of the energy that we need. Actually, it's very strong, but it is coming at an angle that has prepared us physically for it. And this is important because, like I was told by my higher self, is that our bodies physically couldn't change that fast. And the consciousness comes first. Even the consciousness, we can't. You guys know, most of us took a process of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years or more of going through ascension. If everybody on Earth were suddenly hit full force with everything all at once, it would truly, like some people would die from it. Some people would go insane from it, and so on. And so, things are going to be, when we back up and we look at it from a distance, it will seem like in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, or all of a sudden. But because it will truly happen within our lifetime. We'll go from, here we are right now, you and me, we're talking and we're in 3D bodies, and we have, a higher consciousness, but we haven't gone all the way there yet, but whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to be fully in our fourth dimensional bodies, our higher consciousness and all of that. And I will get into a lot more of that later, so I will have to close the video for right now, but thank you guys for watching. So excited to have at least 2 more episodes, maybe more coming up to get through all this material, and please like, subscribe, and share my channel with others. Thank you. Bye-bye.